Okay, Rabbi Wolf asked me to share some words of inspiration for Rosh Hashanah, but the problem with sharing words of inspiration, first of all, we have to try and understand what Rosh Hashanah is. It's very hard to get inspired about something that confuses us so much. We want to be inspired, and be'etzem it's inspiring, but we have to try to clarify a bit. So something helped me, I think, years ago. Maybe it can be helpful to the tzibur as well. And again, I don't accuse everyone else of being like me. A lot of times when Yom Tovim are coming, I say, I should learn the halachas. So I open up the beginning of Hilchos Rosh Hashanah. And if I'm lucky, I get to the middle of Hilchos Rosh Hashanah. And the same thing happens with Sukkot, etc. One year I decided, why don't I work backwards and go to the end of Hilchos Rosh Hashanah? Uncharted territory, new things to discover. So I found something fascinating. In the Shulchan Aruch Siman Tov Kuf Tzadi Vov, one sif. La'acharat tefillah, Mariim Truah Gedolah below Tkiya. Now Chaber says at the end of davening, you blow a Truah Gedolah without a Tkiya. Okay, so all the Ashki-centered people here are scratching their heads saying, I never heard of that. Correct. The Ramah says, Yago yesh mekomas nogim lachzor v'litkoa shloshim kolos lachar sheyotzu bezeh shuv en litkoa od v'chinam, etc., etc. And then it says that you make a Tkiya Gedolah. That's our minig, is the Tkiya Gedolah. But, as I say, it shouldn't simply be Ashki-centric, it's called. When the Imrei Emes, the Ger Rebbe, came to Eretz Yisrael, so his son, the Beis Yisrael, kept disappearing. So his father asked him, he said, where are you going? So he says, I go to the old city where you have the Chachmei Beit El, right, the Yeshiva the Mekubalim Beit El. He says, when I was in Europe, I never had a chance to hear from such Chachamim from the East, right, to take advantage of it. So it's a Truah Gedolah. Now, why would you blow a Truah Gedolah? Mishnah explains. He says that the reason you blow the Truah Gedolah is so that la'arbev hasatan, this fascinating concept of mixing up the satan, confusing the satan, which when we were kids we assumed, right, that this was because we make so much noise the satan can't think. It's something more internal. Why do we need to mix up the satan? He says, Shelo yekatre galeim acharat tefillah, so that after the tefillah, the satan shouldn't prosecute us. Now, already as soon as I say this, wait a second. I got up earlier than I wanted. I have been davening for hours and hours. I heard 100 kolos. I heard a drasha. I heard all these things. What's the satan got to be makatrig against me for at the end of davening? I was good. But what do we do after davening? What do we do after davening on Rosh Hashanah? He says, Ochlim usmechim, ochlim b'shosim usmechim. The satan is going to come and be makatrig and say, look at them. You think that was serious? That was just a show. Look at them diving into the Rosh Hashanah food, right? Coming out in a stampede from shul as if, they haven't seen food before. Ochlim shosim usmechim. The satan says, Einom yireim me'emas hadin. That's not the behavior of someone who's taking a life and death court case seriously, right? If we imagine in the courthouse, there's a trial, somebody's on trial, capital punishment in that state, and the judge says, we'll break for a half-hour recess, and he jumps up, great, can we order pizza? Judge, you want some? It's like, this will not put a good impression on the jury, right? So this is the taina of the satan. And he says, okay, now, the question is, what's our answer? And why would the Truah Gedolah, so to speak, disrupt that prosecution of the satan? Is it like satan repellent? You spray around the room, you blow a Truah, and he flies away? What's going on there? Okay, our answer, first of all, is given in the Shulchan Aruch in the next siman. In Mutar Lisanos b'Rosh Hashanah. It's a discussion in the Gemara, but the psak is, Ochlim v'shosim usmechim ve'ein misanin b'Rosh Hashanah. We eat, and we drink, and we're happy, and we are not allowed to fast on Rosh Hashanah. So we can answer to this mekatrig, this is mandated by halacha. We're following the playbook. But nonetheless, the question's there in the back of our mind, why? Does that seem to fit with the Rosh Hashanah's Yom Adin? Doesn't fasting seem more appropriate on the day that everything hangs in the balance? If even the idea that fasting is helpful in making you a more spiritual, better person, whatever it is, why not go for it? Why not try? Okay, so this is the question we're trying to explore. Now, this appears also in terms of how we dress on Rosh Hashanah. The Tur, right? Rochtzin umistaprin, we wash before Rosh Hashanah. We take a haircut before Rosh Hashanah. Here in Yerushalayim, some people are mahader to do it Erev Rosh Hashanah. It should be clear, some barbershops have chairs out in the street. He says, why? Based on a medrash. Am Rabbi Simon. See, mi goy gadol, right? Who is a great nation? Ashalo Elokim krovim elov. That the Elokim, the Midas Adin, is close to them. Rabbi Chanina of Rabbi Yeshua Omri. Ezo uma kumazu sheyodea ofyo shel Elokel. There's no nation like this that knows the nature of their God. Pirush minhaga v'dinov. They know how the system works with Hashem. They know how He behaves. They know how He judges. Minhaga shel olam adam sheyesh lo din. The general approach in the world is if you are on trial, lovesh shcharim, you wear black clothes, umisatev shcharim, and you wrap yourself in black robes, right? Some people do that all year. Okay, magadol zakono, and you let your beard grow unkempt. Ve'enu chotech tzipornov, you don't clip your nails. Lefi she'enu yodeh ech yetzei. Okay, now we have to get out of today's courtroom where there are all these consultants that discover that if the person who's the drug dealer murderer, if he appears in court clean shaven and with a nice suit, somehow he gives the impression that he's an honorable citizen. But in those days, if you wanted to show hachna, submission in a courtroom, you don't come all dressed up. You come, you say, I can't even think about what I'm wearing. I don't care what my beard looks like. I haven't had the headspace to cut my nails for weeks because I know that I've done something very bad and I'm on trial. So this, he said, would be the approach we think we should take on Rosh Hashanah. But Aval Yisrael Einom Kain, Am Yisrael don't do that. Lovshim Lavonim, Umisatfim Lavonim. Okay, which again, when you look in the Sifrei Halacha, they say you wear nice clothes on Rosh Hashanah. It's interesting, they talk about how there were different levels of clothes. Weekday, right, and for Yom Tov, which was more colorful and exciting, Rosh Hashanah should be nice clothes. Right, that's these big day levonim. Megalchim zakonom. They trim their beard. Okay. Mechatchin tziporneim, and they cut their nails. V'oichlim v'shosim usmeichim b'Rosh Hashanah, and they eat and drink and they're happy on Rosh Hashanah. Why? Lefi sheyodim sheHakadosh Baruch Hu yaseh lohem nes. Because they know that Hashem is going to do a miracle for them. Right? Lefikach noagim lasaper lechabes Rosh Hashanah. That's the reason for our haircuts. For our bathing, ulaharbas manos Rosh Hashanah, and for that lovely festive Rosh Hashanah table with all those delicious things, right? Umikan tshuva lemisanin b'Rosh Hashanah. This is like a rebuke to those who fast on Rosh Hashanah. Beautiful. We have a source. The Medrash says this is the way to do it. That's what's there. But why? That puzzling phrase. We are sure that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to do a nace for them. Well, sure. Why? Maybe there are certain tzaddikim in the generation that walk into Rosh Hashanah confident, right, that Hashem is going to do a nace, even though by definition they probably don't, right? But I certainly don't have confidence. Let's look at it this way. I've been through a bunch of Rosh Hashanahs in my life. And every year, the year has had in it aspects that were difficult, aspects of Yisurim. So why in the world would I be confident walking into this Rosh Hashanah, oh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to do a nace, and I can be celebratory? I don't have confidence in that. If there's anything I can do, if fasting can help me cut down the negatives in the upcoming year, fast away. But they don't let me. Why? Why is it? What is the source of this? What's this confidence? The source of all sources for this goes back to Sefer Nehemiah. Am Yisrael, who had come up from Bavel, that portion of Am Yisrael came from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, were very ignorant. Many of them had intermarried. You see in the Sefer Nehemiah, had a fight for them to keep Shabbos. And they made a big gathering on Rosh Hashanah. Okay, and they read to them from the Torah, and everybody started crying, which you think is a very successful asifa, right? When you get up and you give the drasha and everybody's crying in Truah, it's great. But suddenly, Vayom Nehemiah Hutar Hartashosa, Ezra Kohen Sofer Valavim Amvinis Om, the Chola all those in charge, all the organizers of the Asifa ran out. He said, Hayom Kadosh Hu Hashem Elokeichem Al Tis'ablu V'al Tivku. Said, today is a Yom Kadosh to Hashem. No mourning, no crying. Ki bochim kol ha'am. Kashamam is divrei Torah. Everyone was crying because they heard the words of the Torah and they said, we're not doing that. We're in big trouble. And he goes on, he says, eat rich foods, drink sweet drinks, send portions to those who don't have. Ki kadosh hayom ladoinenu, today is kadosh to Hashem. Ve'al teyotzru, don't be sad. Why? Ki chedvas Hashem hi ma'uzchem. The chedva of Hashem is your strength. Okay, now what's happening here, Rav Hutner points out fascinatingly, he says that you have to realize they're telling them, don't cry. They're not telling them there's not a reason to cry. Okay, they're saying, you may have good reason to cry. We're not denying that. But it's Rosh Hashanah. On Rosh Hashanah, you don't cry. And the secret is somehow in this Chedvas Hashem hi ma'uzchem. Hashem's joy is your strength. What is it? What's going on? So to search for this, we have to go back to the original Rosh Hashanah. The original Rosh Hashanah, the sixth day of creation, the day that Adam was created. And what happened on that? So the Psikta de Rav Kahana, as a fascinating quick summary of everything that happened on that day. Rosh Hashanah Nivra Adam Harishon, right, on that day, Adam Harishon was created. In the second hour, right, it goes through, Hashem was Nimlach Mamachaya Shaarei. The third hour, he gathered together the earth, etc., etc. On the seventh hour, Zorak Bo Neshama, that goof that was created got the Neshama. Bishmini Sichnisel Gan Eden. 8th hour of the day, enter Gan Eden. Bachis Tzivo. In the 9th hour, he told them the Tzivui, right, including not to eat from the Eitz Hadas. Ba'asiris Avar al Tzivuyo. The 10th hour, Adam Harishon transgressed that commandment that he had. Ba'achas Esrei Nidon. In the 11th hour was the judgment on Adam Harishon. B'shteim Esrei Yotza B'dimus Milifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In the 12th hour, he went out with a good verdict before Hashem. He was acquitted in his trial. Not only that, Amar Lei, so Hashem said to him, now that you've gone out from this trial with a good judgment, Atah siman lebanecha. You are the prototype for all of your descendants. Kshem shenichnaste lefanei badin bayom hazeh, just as you came before me and God judged on this day, v'yatzasa b'dimus, and you went out with a good judgment. So to your children will come before me to be judged on this day, and they will go out with this good judgment. Emasai, when will this be? In the month of Tishrei, on the 1st. Beautiful medrash. Really hard to understand. We learned some basic chumash. We saw the sentence that Adam Harishon got, right? He was immortal. Afar Atovel, Afar Tashuv. No more immortality. You're going to die. He had all his needs taken care of automatically. Now it's B'zeas Apecha Tochalechem. You're going to have to work hard for your parnasa. The kots v'dardar tatzmiach, the thorns that grow. There's going to be problems and opposition. Yatzasa v'dimos. What a great judgment. Not only that, I wish on you and all your descendants such a judgment. And that's how we're approaching Rosh Hashanah. That's somehow the source. That's this nace that the Torah mentioned, that we're confident Hashem's going to do a nace for us, just like He did for our great-great-great-grandfather Adam Harishon. Makes you want to fast. Okay, so what is there? What's going on? So Reb Chaim Friedlander uses a very important phrase. He says we have to realize that every onesh from HaKadosh Baruch Hu is never revenge. It's tikkun. It's repair. Okay? Different English words mess with our head. Rosh Hashanah sometimes we can translate as Judgment Day. Okay? You usually say Day of Judgment, but that certainly echoes in the mind Judgment Day. Judgment Day has the connotation of this is when you're going to get paid back for everything. Judgment Day equals like a doomsday, right? You've done bad for so long, now it's Judgment Day. He says, but clearly that's not what Rosh Hashanah is. Because if you were going to set up a Judgment Day in the calendar, it would be the last day of the year. The day to settle all accounts. But our day of judgment, our Yom Hadin, is Rosh Hashanah, the first day of the next year. He says that means that the judgment that you're going through is to assess and to prepare what your tikkun will be in the next year. That's what's being set up for you. To look and to see. And Ba'asher Hu Sham, as Chazal tells us, as you are in Rosh Hashanah, hopefully, where you've remembered all that you have to remember from the Tkiyah Shofar and the Malchus and the Zichronos, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks and says, I'm going to set up this next year so that you will have everything that you need to be metaking what you have to. Does that mean that in the next year you're going to be eating strawberries and cream every day? No. Adam HaRishon got that din, but he received that din of tikkun. It's true, it was a very different world, but it was the world that enabled him to go on. And we, his descendants, continue that on. Am Yisrael, Atem Kruim Adam, are continuing with that. Chazal describe this when they talk about the world, the Olam Hazeh, being like the letter Hey. Okay, everybody imagine a letter Hey. So they say, how is it like the letter Hey? Well, the letter Hey is open on the bottom. So there's Bechira, choice. If you choose, down you go. Gemara asks, wait, what's the little opening for above the leg of the hay? That's if you want to come back, you can come back. So they ask, okay, why doesn't he just come back in where he went out? Lo istaya milsa, they said. That doesn't work. Meaning, chet creates a new reality. You can't just say, oops, sorry, right, let's go on. There's a new reality. Something has changed. Something is different. The return has to go through a new way, a new path. That's that path of tikkun. What's pointed out in Sfarim is that you can end up higher than when you started, when you go on that path. Okay, but being given that path is a tremendous joy. If you have the ability to do it, even if it's painful. I share something personal. I think my son's okay with it. When my first son was born, so he was born with what was called clubfoot in both feet. Okay, this means that the feet were kind of curved, and if he were walking at the age of one day, he would be walking on his ankles. When my wife's grandmother heard that, she started crying, because back in Europe, it happens to a certain percentage of babies. There was the town clubfoot, right, who had to schlep along on crutches because he couldn't walk on his feet. So right away, this was our first baby, two young, stupid married people, and we got into the mode, find the best doctor, do this, do that, and we found a very wonderful doctor in New York. His name is Dr. Lehman in the Hospital for Joint Diseases. And we came in there, this was before the bris even, and he looked at him and he says, oh yeah, that's a nice clubfoot. And he said, okay, we're going to operate, but not right now. Before the operation, so I want you to exercise him. That'll make the operation go better. So we were thinking about baby aerobics, different little things. We'll exercise them. He said, here's how you exercise the feet. Put his hand around the ankle. He says, push against the curvature this way 10 times, hard. And the baby's already starting to scream. Then put your hand under the foot. Push upwards against the curvature 10 times hard. Then the other foot. The baby's purple and screaming. Right? He says, could be you would break the foot or something. Wouldn't be so bad if you do. He says, but I want to see bruises. I want to see that you did it really well. He said, how often are you going to do this? Every time you change his diaper. So we were like sitting there like this. And he said, why do you look like this? He says, you were in my waiting room. You saw frightening things there. It's true. Very difficult cases came to this doctor. There were children without limbs, children with misshapen spine, all sorts of things. He says, many things out there I can improve, but I can't fix. He says, we can fix this. You should be very happy. That's the joy of the opportunity of tikkun. The ability to fix. You may be given a difficult path, but if you can fix, that's the greatest joy. That's the nes that's there that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does for us. He changes the entire configuration of the world and history and everything around to custom design for each of us in this coming year, that tikkun that we're supposed to do. So on one hand, it's frightening, but on the other hand, it's joyful. And we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be doing that out of ahava. The Zera Avraham ba'ava b'charta. He chose us with Ava, the din comes with Ava, and we have to look inside that frightening aspect of din. The Sfasem says, Ashrei ha'am yodei Truah. Fortunate are the people that know Truah. What is that? What does the Truah represent? So he says, Bezor HaKodesh Piresh, Metabrin Hai Truah. Okay, there's an idea of breaking the Truah. There's a pasuk in Tehillim, Turo'em b'shevet barzel, to break them with a staff of iron. Truah is an idea of breaking, of brokenness. Chazal say that when Bnei Yisrael blow the shofar, HaKadosh Baruch Hu stands up from the Kisei Din, Yoshev al Kisei Rachmim, sits on the Kisei Rachmim. Why? He says because, again, one of the psukim we say, that shofras utruas melech bo. Truah refers to the rotzon, the desire, right? Yehei rava kadomach is the Aramaic for Yehi rotzon, right? Milfonecha. So he says Hashem's rotzon is to give rachamim and tova to Am Yisrael. That is the inner rotzon. The mishpat is latova. The mishpat doesn't go against that. It's not overriding Hashem's desire to have mercy on his children and do good for his children. The mishpat is an expression of that. Bnei Yisrael, mavinim v'yodim. Am Yisrael know that. Deep inside they know that. As frightening as it is. They know because they're dvukim b'pnimius ritzonu yizbarach. Because inside of us is a chelek elokam imal. Everything that's happening on Rosh Hashanah is an idea of resonating. Meaning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's ratzon for the world, when he created it, is the same ratzon in our neshama tahara shenasatabi. We want the same thing. It's all there. It's all the same. And therefore, deep inside, we know what ratzon Hashem is. Deep inside, we have the confidence on the unswerving ahava that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has for Am Yisrael, on the tov that's there. And the fact that we accept that and understand that, that is what awakens the rachamim. That is what brings the rachamim to be active. He says, this is Yodei Truah, that they have the das to understand the Pnimius HaRatzon. They know and understand what's happening there at the time of Din, and they have to awaken that Ratzon. And then the Din turns to Rachman. Okay, it's a complicated concept, but it's all there in that strange combination of the most powerful tefillah that we say, which is Avinu Malkeinu. Right? That Avinu Malkeinu implies a few things. Not only that the Melech is your father, so he'll treat you differently, but Avinu means you can't do a DNA test on me and show, oh, you have the same DNA as HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But the Chelek Elokam Imal, the neshama inside of me, right? That's how I am a child, so to speak, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what's there. And the commonality of the desire of my neshama and the Ratzon HaElyon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the world are one and the same. And when we remember that on Rosh Hashanah, so then there's the Rachamim. The Rambam describes the blowing of the shofar as coming out of amnesia. Uri yisheni mishnaschem, ashorchim es ha'emes b'havlei azman. The din starts, and we're in a state of amnesia. We don't remember who we really are. We don't remember what we really want. And the Svarim say that the irbuv hasatan comes from the fact that Am Yisrael want this din. We initiate the din. We want the din because we want to be metaken. Right? When we say Zachrenu l'chaim, so we want to be connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's chaim. It's an interesting thing that the Torah brings down from Ram Rottenberg, that you should be sure to say Zachrenu l'chaim and not lachaim. Okay? Why? He says because in Dikduk, I'm not great in Dikduk, but he says, Chazal say that the word la can be unpacked as lo. Right? In the Dorim it talks about this will be la chulin. So they say that means lo chulin, not chulin. So you don't want to say Zachrenu la chaim, which would mean not life. Okay, so say l'chaim. But the Chabina Rav brought down a question. He said from Chasidei Kamoi, old Chasidim. In Tfilas Geshem we say, l'chaim v'lo la moves, with a patach. Okay, so he says, how does that work? Because if la means lo, so we say, Hashem, let the rains come l'chaim v'lo la moves, which would mean lo moves, and not death. Two negatives are like a positive. That doesn't sound very good. What's the answer? It says we're asking for a life that's not simply lo moves. Some people approach Rosh Hashanah with the warped understanding that Hashem wants to kill us. Okay, and we have to somehow convince him not to kill us. And the beautiful bakasha of Zachreinu L'chaim turns into, Hashem, please don't kill me. That's not. Right? Right? It's the desire for us to do tshuva and to live. So what we want is chaim, and sometimes that chaim means that there will be difficulties in life, because chaim means to be able to be dovek in Hashem. And if our actions brought about a distance between us and Hashem, we want that tikkun, even though we understand that it may not be always easy or pleasant. So therefore we celebrate on Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is going to bring us close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rosh Hashanah is going to give us a year of opportunities to repair and to progress and to make better. Why are you frightened then? Because it could be very frightening. We don't know what form it will take. The more aware we are, the sweeter it can be, right? But we want to accomplish that no matter what. That's what we're doing when we're approaching and we're having the honey cake and the apple and we dress up nice, and at the same time the Sifrei Chaim Umesim are open. And it's very important. I was in somebody's house and they had on the refrigerator a letter from their kid's school, first grade or something like that. Please make sure that your children understand that Rosh Hashanah is not a day where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is coming to hurt everyone. You can imagine the teacher teaches, okay, there's a book of life and a book of death, and people are good are going to get to live, the people are bad are going to get killed, and this can be interpreted by the child as a very frightening, off-putting thing. Rosh Hashanah has inside of it rachamim, and just as those exercises which are done on a child to straighten the feet, right, there's joy and love behind it. Right? Sometimes a couple people have asked me their objections to bris milah. Won't the child be traumatized and deep inside upset with his parents for the rest of his life over the pain that they caused him, right, when he was a helpless child with no say in the matter? First of all, any experienced moyel will tell you that the child starts crying when you open the diaper. Okay, that's what it is. And they can even explain scientifically that there's very little pain in the actual bris milah itself. But I've told the person what we had to do with our son when he was little. And I said, does that mean that my son's going to hate me and my wife for the rest of his life because we did that? I don't think so, because deep inside, that was done out of tremendous ahava. That was done out of love. And the neshama of the child picks up on that. He knows what it is really and how it comes. So this is what we see in approaching Rosh Hashanah. So now let's go back to that mysterious pasuk that we had in Sefer Nehemiah. Chedvas Hashem hi ma'uzchem. The chedva of Hashem is your strength. There's this theory in linguistics, I never read it in the book, but I quote it like everybody else, that if you have a society that has multiple words for one concept, it shows that it's a very important concept in that society. An example I was given is Eskimos. Eskimos have many different words for snow, describing crunchier snow, wetter snow, drier snow, powdery snow, because when you're an Eskimo, snow is a very big issue in life and very important. Am Yisrael have many words for simcha. Gila, Rina, Ditza, Chedva, right, simcha, all sorts of names for it. That means it's very important, but obviously nothing in Lashon HaKodesh is simply a repeat. Each one is a different mode. The Malbim explains Chedva the following way. He says, "Ha'evdel shebein chedva lebein yeser halashonos." The difference between chedva and the other terms we use for simcha is, he says, chedva mitzayin simcha pnimis ruchonis hamizgaberes al etzev chitzoni. It represents a deep inner spiritual simcha that overcomes a more external sadness. Chedva is particularly in that mode where there are reasons to be sad or to be afraid, but nonetheless, there's an overriding, deeper source of simcha that overcomes that, and that's its expression. This is the power of the Truah Gedolah. When that Truah Gedolah is blown, the Truah is the sound of the, right, Yevavas, the crying, right, and the Yilule Yolil. We recognize that the din is frightening. We do. The fact that we're going out to eat and drink and be happy in no way shows that we don't take the din seriously. We know the seriousness of the din. But Chedvas Hashem imuzchem. This is a joyful day for Hashem. where he's building another year that's progressing his plan for the world along, and he's giving us things that will help us. And we know that, and that's our outer expression which is there. So hopefully, it sorts out a little bit, right? This almost, conflicting approach that we have to Rosh Hashanah that we see in our minhagim and our anhaga, and let us be able to go in with Emas Adin, but with the simcha as well. Everybody should have Ksir Simatova, Shana Tova, Masuka.